So today I'm checking out another second-hand graphics card I picked up on eBay. It's a Founders Edition GTX 1070. It cost me £330 including postage, which is £40 less than RRP. Given GPU mining is dying and the fact that miners are looking to more efficient means of getting that sweet cryptocurrency honey, and graphics cards are returning to the market, used and new alike. I've got 13 games lined up. Come check it out and see how well this used 1070 performs. I'm a big fan of used graphics cards. Since I've started this channel, I think I've owned at least 6 or 7 used cards, each differing in price from 30 to 40 or 50 pounds, up to 150 or 200, or even this 1070 being my most expensive one at 330 pounds. So this one means business. I'll be benchmarking it in 13 games, including some new games like Far Cry 5 and Assassin's Creed Origins, and some older, more popular titles too, like Overwatch or CSGO. But for now, you're here to see how well this GTX 1070 performs in multiple games. I've got 13 games to test out. Some are using in-game benchmarking tools as I suppose they're a fair way to benchmark, whereas others are based on me recording a benchmark whilst playing through a few rounds of gameplay, for example. So I'll run you through the specs of this GTX 1070, the aesthetics on my Founders Edition card, and the power required, inputs and all that fun stuff. Then we'll move on to the benchmarks. Right, the GTX 1070 was released nearly 2 years ago, back in June 2016. It has 1,920 CUDA cores, a full 8 gig of GDDR5 memory, no BS from Nvidia this time, unlike with the GTX 970. This Founders card has a base clock of 1,506 MHz and a boost clock of 1,607 MHz. It supports Ansel, VR, SLI, G-Sync, GameStream, DX12, and even up to 8K displays at 60 Hz. It has 3 display ports at 1.4 and a HDMI 2.0 and even a DVI port. It's about 27 centimeters long and 11 centimeters thick, requires only one 8-pin power connector from your power supply for juice, and draws a meager 150 watts at full load. This card is also a blower design, so the only fan on this card sucks that air in and exhausts it out the rear of your case. Not the most effective way of cooling, but probably the most efficient cost-wise for Nvidia, I'm assuming. For the benchmarks for this 1070, I've loaded everything up to Ultra at 1080p, with anti-aliasing off because the visual gain is minimal for the massive amount of FPS you can lose in most games. I'll also mention for each game whether that's based on an in-game benchmark or during normal day-to-day gameplay. Right, that's enough talking. Let's load up some games and see just how well this 1070 performs nearly 2 years after its release. Well, that's quite a lot to take in. We're all expecting the GTX 1070 to handle itself well at 1080p. Having a newer quad-core Intel chip will always help when it comes to gaming benchmarks at 1080p too, but it's nice to see that even with newer games like Assassin's Creed and Far Cry 5 at ultra settings, you can average well over 60 FPS, and in Far Cry even over 100 FPS. Assassin's Creed Origins would probably be higher if the PC port wasn't a buggy mess, But that's not down to this card's fault, it's not down to them, it's down to Ubisoft. This GTX 1070 cost me £330 including postage, which is about what a lot of GTX 1060 6GB cards cost. A lot of prices are still yet to normalise for most cards. Anything from AMD is still an absolute minefield when it comes to second-hand or new GPUs. I'd love to test an RX 580 8GB model and a Vega 56 or 64, but due to mining, those cards are pretty much unobtainable at a reasonable price. Mining was also affected Nvidia as well, we all know, but it was less extreme as they were a lot less efficient for obviously getting the cryptocurrencies. A lot of GPUs are back in stock at RRP in the UK, albeit the premium ROG Strix, MSI or Aorus cards and EVGA as well are still backing a hefty premium on top for better cooling and overclocking. If you're looking for a second-hand GPU to game at 1080p, I'd recommend the GTX 970. They cost less than half the price of this GTX 1070 on the used market, and if you can deal with going from ultra to maybe very high or high in-game settings, you'll be more than happy. But if you want to game at higher refresh rates or higher resolutions, the 1070 is a good card, even still nearly 2 years after its release back in 2016. This 1070 can perform really well at 1440p as well, which I have tried it on, and you will see that in another video maybe. But as long as you can find one that hasn't been used for mining, it's a very, very good card. But I'd honestly recommend waiting for now, for Nvidia to unveil the new 1180/1170 cards, whenever that may be, hopefully this year, and see how they stack up. The new cards will push the price down of this 1070 and the very popular 1060, etc., meaning better frame rates are more obtainable for all gamers. So maybe if you can think of a 1080 Ti, you'll be able to get in maybe 1170 performance. Anyway though guys, that is the end of the video. As always, if you like this kind of stuff, feel free to click that like button down below. If you didn't, click that dislike button. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you thought about today's video and this new, different, very wooden setup. And if you decide my face hasn't offended you, please do not hesitate to click that subscribe button so we can see each other again soon. Thank you for watching. Cheers.